Bayad na po. Time to raise it up. Let's go. Filipinos, where you at? Pinoy Lakas. Back yo. Mic check 1 2 1 2. You know we rolling in that Jeep now.
Welcome to Pinoy Lakas here in Inland Empire. We have a special guest for today. Very, very special because he is close to our heart and it's the best eye doctor in town. Welcome, Dr. Richard Gilkison.
Thank you for having me here. It's nice to be able to talk once in a while. Either I'm on a performance with singing or I just let my wife take over. So today I get my chance to chime in a little bit, I guess, with things that I know.
So, Doc, what is the key word that you just talked about this year?
Well, 2020, I hope most people know 2020 is a term we use as optometrists all the time because that denotes that you have normal eyesight. So we can call this year the year of vision. And hopefully that does give people attention to pay attention to their eyes and not to take them for granted because they are, or probably are, to a great majority of people, our best sense that we have. Nobody would want to lose any part of their vision to enjoy the rest of their lives, and your vision health is something that's not automatic. You have to take care of it.
As far as I know, ever since I met you, in my mind, when I think about your eyes, it's actually a window to this world, right, Doc? Without your eyes, you won't see how beautiful the world is that God created for us. So if I'm going to lose something, the last thing I want to lose is my eyesight. So I really want to keep my eyes healthy. Unfortunately, I myself is experiencing something that I can control about my eyes, and I want to talk about that later on.
Sure.
Doc, I know you for a long time, but we never talk about things about your personal life growing up and also things that you are an eye doctor anyway. I don't know why, but I want to ask you this time, how many years did it took you to finish your course to be an eye doctor or optometrist?
Well, most people, when they ask about optometrists, they're not really sure. For years, they didn't even think that we were doctors. But we are. That's where there's a D in the O.D. Because that denotes that we are doctors. And we go to college and get our bachelor's degrees. And then we go on to, instead of medical school, we go to optometry school, which involves essentially 4 more years of college, which is much more intensive than your bachelor's degree college level. Essentially, optometrists have the same curriculum as medical doctors or ophthalmologists, except that they go on beyond what we do and do a year of internship and 2 years of residency in a hospital. So ophthalmologists are hospital-based eye doctors, and optometrists are not. We don't have hospital privileges in general, but our fields are getting closer and closer to the same in terms of the scope of practice. So optometrists are looked more as doctors now than when I've started some 30 years ago.
Wow. Well, what or why did they call it O.D. versus D.O.?
Well, that one's a really simple one. We should have been D.O.s, I guess. You think of ophthalmologists or M.D.s, so and it doesn't sound right, optometric doctor, but essentially it's Doctor of Optometry. And the only reason we got kind of second fiddle for O.D. instead of D.O. is osteopath doctors have been around longer than optometrists.
How many years you been practicing, Doc?
I was an optometrist starting in 1989, so last year was just my 30th anniversary.
Wow, congratulations! 30 years!
Yeah, it doesn't seem believable.
Oh, yeah, you still look young anyway. Doc, I'm going to ask you a question. So you've been 30 years being an optometrist. Is there any time that in your mind that you want to be ophthalmologist?
I don't believe so. I always kind of knew my limitations as far as dexterity. I was a very good athlete when I was young, but I've never had really agile hands and skills with my fingers and my hands. I'm very, very klutzy. And so I kind of knew that if I was going to be an ophthalmologist, I wouldn't want to be just a basic ophthalmologist. I would have wanted to be somebody that was skilled at surgery, an expert in my field. And I knew I wasn't cut out to do surgery. But now at this day and age, ophthalmologists, most of the surgeries they do are with lasers and instrumentation, so it doesn't really involve hand skill so much. But 30 years ago, it was different.
There's a lot of things in my mind about asking you questions, so it will be more easier for me to read my note because optometrist is kind of a hard career, so I don't want to mess up about asking you questions since I'm not really knowledgeable about in your field. But even though I know you again for so many years, I see you as the best doctor that I've known. I know a lot of eye doctor or optometrists, but from head to toe, you look like a doctor to me, and I know you are 100% or more being optometrist because I know how you handle your patient, and they're always happy about the service. But here are some of the questions I want to know. I'm gonna wear my glasses that you actually prescribed to me. So let's see this one because I can see better. My first question may be common to you when people talk to you. When and why did you decide on optometry as a career?
That one's, it may seem that, someone who ends up in the medical field has kind of intentions of doing that most of their life, and really wasn't that way for me. I did like health and sciences, and for quite some time was looking at the field of what was called medical technology, which at that time was an emerging field. You started having new technologies to measure blood cells and essentially that you could work in a laboratory and diagnose specific diseases. And that always kind of intrigued me. I enjoyed what was called microbiology when I was in undergraduate school. And that involved following a diagram down the line. You would identify a bacteria or a virus, and you would have to look at its details under a microscope and be able to identify what species of bacteria that was. And it was kind of like doing Sherlock Holmes detective work. So that's kind of another field that really intrigues me is forensic science. So I was really interested in that field, and at the back in the 80s, that was really a new field. However, it did involve similar aspects, similar to a nurse. You were going to work in a hospital a lot, which I really didn't enjoy the hospital setting so much. I had a hospital stay once when I was in high school for a week, and I couldn't wait to get out of there. So essentially, I changed my mind somewhere along my junior year of undergraduate school. And what changed my mind was there was a student that was ahead of me in my college fraternity that actually was starting in optometry. His first year was my first year of undergrad. But he would come back to meetings and tell me about how exciting, the field was at that time. Optometry was just really taking off in the 80s. And so when I saw that, I knew that was something that it was more intrigued about because I didn't see limitations. With medical technology, I felt like there were limitations, not necessarily financially, but just as far as how far you can advance in the field. The thought of maybe looking at somebody's blood results and seeing that they had a terminal cancer didn't excite me too much either. I didn't really want to be kind of the bearer of bad news. And optometrists, we rarely ever deal with life-threatening issues. It can happen, but it's not in our everyday lives or everyday practice.
Well, you actually for so many years you've been an optometrist, I observe and also find out that you are actually diagnosing some of our patients that it's almost in the edge of being blind, and that's amazing, that you can actually detect that.
Right. The eyes are much more complex than what most people even think about or know about. And so when I see something in somebody's eyes and describe it to them, they are just usually very, very astonished that we can see some of the body functions that show up in the eyes. So with the modern technologies we have now, we can not only we could see very close up something that's going on in the eye that at one time was so dark of a world that you couldn't see, and you weren't really certain what you were seeing when you did see it. But now we have the computers, and we have imaging technology that's so highly defined that you can zoom in on something and you could actually see down to the microscopic level. And so the eyes are the window to the world, but they're also the window to your soul.
Ooh.
And so what that means is, when we look into your eyes, we can see essentially things that are going on in your body chemistry and your body health that you may not necessarily be aware of, that we can detect and get you sent to somebody that's specialized in cardiovascular or circulatory health, what have you.
Yeah. So, we're explaining that to me. Is that the same question I was going to ask you about what are the current trends in optometry, or they're totally different?
Well, optometry, what's exciting about optometry is it's not, it's not a single focus field. There's not just one thing that we deal with. We deal with so many different aspects about vision health, vision function. And so there's constantly new, I call, when people see me using equipment, I call them toys, but essentially it's exciting that we have new ways of looking at the health of the eyes and or treating the health of the eyes. So some of the fields that we're looking at now, as we can see now down to the, like I was discussing a moment ago about seeing down to the very cellular level of the retina. So when somebody comes in with a vision loss, and historically we would only just be able to see it with a photo and not necessarily know exactly what level of the retina, and there's multiple levels of the retina. And now you can see right down to the exact level, and so the treatment options are much more focused. There's less damage done to the eyes, treating the eyes. So essentially, technology is always growing in terms of the retinal technology. We have new technology all the time with vision technology. Dry eyes is a new exciting field with ophthalmology and optometry. There's ways of testing your tear film chemistry to see if that's the cause of your dry eyes. There's ways of treating the glands of your eyelids that secrete oil into the tear film that get clogged up on most of us at some point in our lives, and most of us get dry eyes as we get older. And some of that is preventable and treatable now with new technology that heats up the eyelids and massages the eyelids to open up the glands and get oil back into the tears.
A lot of patients, I heard them before they even see you. Now I'm experiencing the same way when they ask me question. Is I'm having some black flying in around my face, and I thought it was my hair, so I keep fixing my hair, my eyelashes, but it's still going on my face, those little tiny, like I think it's a little bit of bugs in front of me. Is that what problem is that?
Well, the eye is hollow and it's filled with gel, and the gel of the eye is there as to keep the eye structurally sound, but also as we age, the gel tends to get liquefied and starts to move and slosh around, and that creates vision effects to your eyes. You can see things that are apparently in your sight that you kind of grab at, like a cobweb effect, or spots or dark spots, sometimes clear spots that move through your vision. And we call those, the technical term is something more complicated, but we use the word floaters to describe just the spots. And those are a normal aspect of changing the eye as we age. But there are times where they're abnormal. And there's things that can happen in your vision that are when you describe it, it may initially sound like a floater, and then essentially, as an eye doctor, we know what's different than what's normal. And there are things like spots in the vision that don't go away. And for somebody older, the first thing we think of is macular degeneration. That one gives you a spot in the middle of your vision, and it stays wherever you move your eye. But it's essentially a much bigger spot than what you would see with a floater.
Is there any way you can avoid it?
Floaters, probably not. There are, as there are with any other ailment in the body, there are kind of home remedies that sometimes pop up some are reputable and some are kind of snake oil. There are little tablets you can take that, I've had other doctors give testimonials that said that they help on reducing the effects of the floaters. A few here and there, we just generally kind of suck it up and tell you to just get used to it. Most of the time you kind of adapt to it and you don't really notice them, but you should wear sunglasses when you're outdoors. That's generally where you see them the most when there's a bright sky. That kind of gives you a backdrop to be able to see the floaters more. And if you have bad vision, you're going to see them even more so. So you should be wearing your prescription most of the time if you have floaters.
That's a good way to explain that to the patient, Doc, because sometimes they freak up. Hello, everyone. Let's take a quick break to give a shout out to our sponsor, JP Halang Optometric Eye Care here in Rancho Cucamonga with Dr. Richard Gilkison. Remember, it's not only eye care, we care. And how long and how far can you go for quality eye care and quality eyewear? We are accepting all kinds of insurance, especially majoring in BSP and medical IEHP. Just look at us and Google us, JP Highland Optometric Eye Care or Dr. Richard Gilkison Optometrist. Also, you can find us in Yelp. Thank you very much for streaming with me and podcasting with me here in Pinoy Lakas Radio Streaming. God bless you all. Now, my next question for Dr. Gilkison are, what are the different ways optometrists can practice?
Well, the obvious one would be the way I've ended up practicing now. That's the traditional own your own practice and practice the mode of optometry that you want to practice within the business. However, the way optometry has evolved with corporations and with the retail world, essentially we can practice in a lot of different modalities now. I did practice for quite some time in a retail setting. In a Sears store. Sears was one of the earliest, as far as I know, was the first company that allowed concessions to move in within the store, and optometry was one of those concessions. At the original time that the optometrists moved into Sears, they actually owned the optometry department as well as the optical department. And as companies have moved in and bought, paid big money to have their products in the stores, they eventually bought out the optometrists, and the optometrists now solely see patients. You have optometrists that can work in large corporations like Kaiser. You have optometrists that work under Indian reservations. You have optometrists that work under ophthalmologists. I know of some that work in actually in hospital settings as well. So it's an evolving field. I would say it's a field that's really opportunistic for women because of the way you can practice. You can hire out other doctors to work at your practice and still have time to raise a family.
That's exciting.
Uh-huh.
So, what are the optometrists concerned about with today?
Well, I think it's a combination of two things. One is today we have the world of simplicity and everything at your fingertips with the internet. A lot of the young generation now, they do everything off the internet, shopping for the products off the internet. And it gets to a point where you're too simplified and you don't see any human being for your eye care. There's only so many things you can do through the internet, and you still need a personal touch of an eye doctor to be able to look inside of your eyes, evaluate the health of your eyes, and come up with a more thorough prescription for your vision than you can do either from a cell phone or a computer. And there are ways of refracting your vision on a computer, essentially, but that's getting into a dangerous territory of not ever seeing an eye doctor. And there are eye diseases that we know that don't necessarily give you symptoms, and if you just wait till your eyes go bad, you potentially could have lost vision unnecessarily.
Well, in saying that, Doc, so do you really recommend the patient to see once a year or 2 years? What is the situation there?
Well, I would say 1 year is sounds like good advice for most people, but some people don't necessarily have eyes that require yearly care. So for most people, we would say every other year. As you get older, then that level becomes less time, and usually it's more a year, maybe 6 months if you have some type of health problem that affects the eyes.
So diabetic patient, you recommend how many times?
Well, if we want to talk about diabetes, diabetes is still number one or number two on the list of causing blindness, in not only in America but the world. And so I can count so many times that I've had patients that have come in that avoided having their eyes tested, and by the time they came in to get their eyes tested, they'd already lost a considerable amount of vision unnecessarily, because with diabetes, essentially it slowly erodes away your healthy vision. And if you don't have a proactive approach to managing your diabetes, not only with your eyes but with your body, you're going to start showing long-term effects and permanent damage to your body that you could have prevented if you would have stayed on yearly exams or seeing even your medical doctor on a routine basis as well.
Doc, there's so many there's so many kind of eye disease. What are the common eye problem?
Well, I mean, when you go to a routine eye exam, the one disease that we always want to check for and is one of the more common eye diseases is glaucoma. There are many forms of glaucoma, so there are some that do cause symptoms, but the what we call chronic insidious form means there's no symptoms. It's a very gradual, slow process. You slowly lose your vision, usually from the periphery towards the middle. And by the time you may notice any loss of vision, it's been there for quite a while, and essentially is much harder to treat and prevent you from losing more vision if you don't have routine eye exams and catch it early in the stage of the disease.
Do you have to have operation if you have glaucoma?
There are options of surgery. In America, usually most optometrists that treat glaucoma and ophthalmologists that treat glaucoma choose the medicine approach first prior to surgery. Surgery essentially is done with a laser, and it's not permanent forever. The effects don't last forever. So they can go in multiple times with that, but maybe 3 or 4 times you're done. There's no more times they can perform that type of procedure. But that's one of the new exciting technologies they're working on. Essentially, the cause of chronic glaucoma is elevated eye pressure. And elevated eye pressure, eye medicines work on lowering the pressure, but there are devices that they insert into your eye now that can lower the pressure permanently and without surgery. Well, it's a minor surgical procedure to insert the devices. So, they're all constantly working on better methods of inserting things in the eyes that aren't going to cause any disruption to the health of the eye. Glaucoma, the surgery is not the option of choice initially.
Oh.
Now, in other countries, I think they do laser early on in the procedure before medicine. But it doesn't necessarily lower your pressure enough alone. You still may take medicine on top of that. And glaucoma, once you're diagnosed, requires constant care. It's not a treat it and goes away type problem. It's chronic, and it stays there, and you have to manage it. So once you're diagnosed, it's every 6 months to a year you're going in to have special testing done to make sure that the medicine's working and you're not losing any more vision.
I heard most of the time that you have a patient about the word cataract. Which one is more dangerous, cataract or glaucoma?
In today's world, cataracts are a very minor problem. Uh, Technology, experience, they've had uh, cataract surgery been performed probably for the last 50 years. But early on in my career, 30 years ago, it was major surgery. And so it wasn't something we took lightly to refer somebody out for surgery, especially if they were old or had health problems, because it was surgery and it required you to be put under anesthesia, general anesthesia, and you had a recovery period of time. Today, they've perfected the implants that they use to replace your natural lens. They're foldable, so they're very tiny, and that allows the incision to be made very small. And they can also go in now with a laser and disintegrate the original lens into really tiny pieces without really disrupting the health of the inside of the eye. So today it's an easy referral and generally a miraculous referral. It's a very pleasing referral to the patient. It makes a huge difference in their vision, and it's an outpatient procedure. They can go in at 8 o'clock in the morning and they go home by 12. But they do only one eye at a time, so you have to wait 2 or 3 weeks at least to do the other eye.
Oh, I see. Well, Doc, unfortunately, you're an eye doctor, and I've been with you for so many years, 20 plus years, and I don't know how long ago when you diagnosed me with my eye disease, and that's amazing that because we've been together and suddenly that least that I expected I'm gonna have this problem because my husband is an eye doctor. Why did I get this problem that terrified me and tried to avoid talking about it? Now since we're here together and we need to let the people know the other kind of disease, I'm gonna let the people know that your Pinay Lakas is actually suffering with an eye problem or eye disease that I've been trying to avoid talking about it because I'm so nervous. So, but it's very important that you guys know the different kind of eye problem. I want to know, Doc, about the history. Why did I get this nasty pteridium?
Well, pterygia are very common for Filipinos, unfortunately, because they live close to
Filipino?
Filipinos.
Oh no!
Or people there
Filipino.
from northern South America, like Colombia and Venezuela. All those countries are right along the equator. If you know about the equator, essentially it's always pointing at the sun. So it gets ultraviolet exposure the heaviest on Earth year round, as opposed to us living in the northern hemisphere. We get it, in the summertime. In the wintertime, we get a kind of a break from the heaviest ultraviolet light exposure. So your eyes have mucous membranes that line the white of the eyes and loop up and line the inside of your eyelids, and they're there to keep moisture to your eye. That keeps your eye from drying out. If your eye dries out, it'll frost up. The cornea will cloud up just like a cataract does inside your eye, and you'll be blind from that. So the mucous membrane has a very essential purpose there for maintenance of the eye health. But if you think about mucous membranes, it's similar to what you have lining the inside of your nose and your mouth. Those are mucous membranes too. But fortunately for them, they're covered or closed from exposure to the sun and to the air. So, if our mouths were always open, we probably would have mouth sores all the time, because as your mouth dries out, essentially you get more canker sores or fever blisters along the edge of your mouth because the tissue there is more susceptible to infection. Well, the eye is no different. The mucous membrane, when it gets exposed to ultraviolet from the sun, gets irritated and agitated, but essentially your eye is open a majority of the time while you're awake, so it gets irritated and it starts to yell. For some people, it'll just yellow and mound up, what we call pingueculae. Those are much more common than pterygia. But pingueculae are not anything that we worry about. Essentially, it's a cosmetic problem. People are always very conscientious about having the yellow spots on the white of their eyes, as they are when the pterygia gets kind of bloodshot and inflamed. The pterygium requires intervention quite often if it starts to grow too far over towards the middle of your cornea, because that's where your line of sight takes place. And if your line of sight is blocked by the pterygium, you're not going to be able to see. So once we start to evaluate that that's a worrisome sign, then we can refer you to an ophthalmologist, and they will, it's a kind of a messy procedure. They will scrape it off, and it bleeds quite a bit.
You scared me.
And then they do what's called a graft. Essentially, they take some mucous membrane, healthy mucous membrane, and graft it back over where that was, so that you still have the ability to produce moisture on the front of the eye. And it also is very preventative on the pterygium from reoccurring. Historically, when they would just scrape them off, they would recur probably more than half the time, and quite often even more aggressively the second time around.
So I'm not a doctor, but listening to you right now, and most likely I get it for my love of gardening.
That, you lived in the Philippines a big half of your lifetime, so you do need to protect your eyes from ultraviolet light. So we know that for years, people who sailed on fishing boats got cataracts unexplained very young, and we didn't know at that time that ultraviolet light was the cause. But it's very similar to, the lens is made up of the same proteins that egg white's made up. And if you know about egg white, when you crack it open, it's not white, it's clear. It doesn't turn white until it hits the heat, and then it kind of opacifies. Well, the lens does that from ultraviolet light, and the front of the eye gets damaged from ultraviolet light. So now that we know that, the doctors will tell you to wear ultraviolet protective sunglasses. And that involves, making sure that you're wearing lenses that fully cover your eyes. And if you're out for a long period of time, then we would tell you to wear a hat too, because essentially ultraviolet can bounce off the lens, it can get around the lens, and it's the highest energy light that we don't see. So you don't know you're getting exposed to ultraviolet light unless you're getting sunburned too on top of that. That's what causes sunburn.
So when they do the correction on my procedure, can they put me to sleep? I cannot. I'm so scared. Is there any procedure that they can do this when I'm sleeping?
They generally won't do that.
I need to.
LASIK surgery, I haven't talked about that, but essentially they don't put you under for that either.
But can they put more?
They give you some good Valium, and
they need to give me more Valium.
Obviously use a local anesthetic, but they probably won't put you totally under. They want your eyes to be able to stay open.
They need to make me. Oh man, I'm so scared. So, Doc, what are the other common eye disease beside mine?
Well, we touched on diabetes. The eyes are the number one organ affected by diabetes. So I have patients all the time. They come in, and first question I ask them about is their A1C count. So for all you diabetics out there, you should know your number. 6.5, I think, is the barometer of okay. If you're running 8, 9, or higher, that's a measure that you're not really controlling your sugar very well over a 3-month period. And so we know that A1C count kind of is an indicator of your higher risk of having what we call diabetic retinopathy. Diabetic retinopathy, if you understand the body, how our heart sends out blood from the arteries, and then it goes to the veins to come back to the heart. Well, in between the veins and the arteries are capillaries, which are kind of the spongy, fine little vessels that feed oxygen to tissues. And those vessels are very fragile, and they get damaged over the long haul when your sugar is too high. It causes them to sometimes get too fragile and thin, and they leak fluid into the retina tissues, or they get too thick and they don't put enough oxygen into the tissue, and your body starts to realize it needs more oxygen, or that your retina is going to die and you're going to go blind. So that's probably one of the most common things that we see is diabetic retinopathy. Sometimes I see that from a patient that seemingly is in denial that they have diabetes. They come in and say they've never had their eyes tested, or they are blurry in vision, and once we check their vision and can't really get them to see, we dilate their pupils and take a look inside their eyes, and we will see extensive hemorrhaging inside the retina. So if you're a diabetic, I urge you to start getting on a routine yearly schedule of coming in and be prepared to be dilated, which is kind of annoying. It blurs your vision out for an hour or two, and it makes things kind of bright, and you're very light sensitive for an hour or two. But that's a small price to pay if we can get you maintain your vision. And the younger you are, the more are the ones that the younger patients are the ones we worry about the most, because you have to live with the disease for a longer period of time, and the longer you have diabetes, the more risk of it damaging your eyes. And then of course, diabetes will affect your kidneys and your heart, and if you heard of neuropathy, where you can basically lose, you have tingling in your feet and your hands, and you can lose sensation there, and it's very dangerous too. You can step on a nail and not even feel it. So diabetes is one. The other one we talk about for older generation is macular degeneration. Fortunately, in my practice, I'm seeing less, and I don't have a lot of seniors in this location. I did for years. And in my early days of practice, I saw extensive macular degeneration. And the reason being, in my opinion, and probably most doctors' opinions, was smoking was much more prevalent at that time. And chronic chain smokers are the most prone to having what's called wet macular degeneration, and that's the most damaging to the eyes. You lose your central vision, which is your finest vision, and you're left with peripheral vision, which is just vague and very mild detail. You can't really tell people's faces. So it's still out there. We do have treatment for the wet form, fortunately, now too. So some people are potentially having their vision saved by doing injections to the back of their eye, which is the same procedure they do for people who have diabetic retinopathy as well. So those are the three that we see. Cataracts, glaucoma, macular degeneration are the three most common, but you can go down a long list of other diseases. I have a patient that just came in and picked up their contact lenses, and he has a corneal disorder or degeneration. So you could technically call that a disease, and unfortunately it was a result of him having a very high prescription and having LASIK surgery done 20 years ago. It's very rare, but essentially for him it causes corneas to get too thin, and he can't see with glasses or soft contact lenses. He has to wear a very special type of hard lens to give him vision. So we see things in the less systemic problems like eye problems that are diseases as well. Keratoconus is pretty common. I see that in a lot of 25 to 35-year-old men that unexplained change in their vision, they start developing astigmatism. And at the early stages, it can be corrected with glasses, but you start seeing it change when at that age, usually your vision is more stabilized. And if their corneas are becoming too thin, similar to what I just discussed with my other patient. But however, those were kind of starting to see a pattern with children when they're young having allergies and rubbing their eyes too much. So we're looking at ways of hopefully slowing that rate down of occurrence and maybe preventing it. But they require a special type of care. Once their vision gets too bad with glasses, they would need specialty contacts, or even sometimes we have to do what's called a corneal transplant. And so I've had a few of those kind of patients over my career as well. So there's diseases of the eyes, there's diseases of the body, and the more common things people have heard of are like pink eye. Occasionally you'll get a weepy eye come in and your eye's red, and want a magic cure for that. Unfortunately, it's like the flu; it's a virus, so there isn't really necessarily an easy cure for that type of problem. But I've had patients come in quite commonly with dry eyes. That's a problem for them, and sometimes it's related to a systemic problem. There's older people, women more commonly get what's called Sjogren's syndrome. It's an autoimmune disease similar to like lupus that causes very severely dry eyes. It dries all your mucous membranes. So, when people ask, back when I started my career, when I was a young man and I had a baby face and people kind of didn't really look at me as an eye doctor or a doctor, period. They would come in and were surprised, really shocked that an optometrist would tell them, "Oh, you've got, some type of systemic health problem," and we're doctors, so we don't, you don't go to 4 years of school beyond college and just learn about the eyes. You have to learn about the feet. You have to learn about every part of the body because potentially they could be something that you can discover or has a symptom that's connected to the eyes.
Yes.
So, that's why you have to have as much schooling as you do, and you have to have a love of science and whatever optometrists we have to learn, mathematics.
We talk about most of the age, like we talk about people that usually get this kind of disease. Now my question is that how old is the youngest age do you see? What do you recommend? Well, how old?
Well, there are doctors that specialize in pediatrics, optometrists and ophthalmologists. That's not my field, but you could take your children in as early as 1 or 2 years old, and they can do tests now to evaluate whether their vision is going to develop properly. So I would say if you do have access to children, pediatric optometrists or ophthalmologists, that is the current line of thinking, is that you should have your children checked at that age at least once. And then as soon as they're in school age, kindergarten, and starting to learn to read, in school, you need to have their vision checked at that point. And that could be done here at our office, or just about any optometrist could see someone age 4 and up. And because you can get, a child to respond, and, we have the tools necessary to test somebody that age. Somebody at the pediatric age, they have to have technology that will evaluate without input. So we call a objective testing versus subjective testing, where we have to ask you how you see. And so once you get of age where you're more reliable on that, usually probably 3.5 to 4 and up, then we can do some subjective testing as well as objective testing and be more certain that we're getting a good result. And what most people don't understand about eyesight is we're not born with our eyes fully developed. Our eyes are developing as we grow. And so the first 7 or 8 years of our lives, it's very important to provide your child with a visual environment that's very complex. You want colors and you want patterns. You don't want to just have a kind of drab field that they're exposed to, on top of checking their vision. But essentially you want their vision to develop full potential. And so you have to expose the eyes to full potential. And if for some reason you never tested your child's eyes before age 8, you could have missed potentially one eye being exposed to a good level of vision. So the term most people have heard of, lazy eye, it's kind of a generic term we use. It's because generally one eye doesn't develop the level of vision as the other eye, and it's quite often preventable if you have your child's eyes tested and their vision looked at.
Talking about technology, is that the reason also, like medical fields that, like me, even I'm a nurse, that we have to go to our continuous education, so you can learn more and more about eye problem, modern technology, how to treat them. You're one of them, right? That you need to go through that continuous education.
Right. As optometrists, we're required at least 50 hours every 2 years. And, our field is constantly changing. So you want your doctor to be at least somewhat informed about something that's out there that potentially would better serve your needs as far as your vision or your health of your eyes. And so any doctor is required to do some type of continuous education. If not, we would be so outdated because the field's changing at a rapid pace.
Doc, the next topic I want to cover is so exciting because the people need to know that the different kind of lenses actually. Yeah. Because I heard that over and over through you that you're actually recommending different kind of lenses, and I'm learning about it, so I want you to explain it to them. I'm gonna test you. Okay. when you're recommending doing if they need a prescription, the number one you want them to have is the type of lens, and you want you want to let the people know the difference about the lenses, so you can explain it to them. Why do they have to have that kind of lens? So I'm gonna start with a polycarbonate, my favorite subject. Polycarbonate.
Well, back 30 years ago when I started, you had lens materials. Basically, we would just say plastic or glass. And that's really all there was. There was only one grade of plastic, and there was glass. And as time has evolved and they've come up with more composites of plastics, we're able to now craft lenses into more traits that we want in a lens, especially somebody with a very bad eyesight and has a very high prescription. We could take a plastic material and make it a lot more cosmetically pleasing and optically more pleasing to the patient. Polycarbonate's been around for a long time, I don't know, 30, 40 years at least. And at the beginning, it was probably a material that wasn't prescribed a lot because optically it wasn't very good quality as far as the peripheral extent of the vision, and it would cause what we call chromatic aberration, which was kind of a rainbow effect from the lights. And so some doctors kind of stayed away from prescribing it early on. But as time has evolved, polycarbonate's quality has improved immensely. And it's now probably the number one material because of its what we call impact resistance, which is the most important feature to a lens for a child. We don't want them to wear glasses that are potentially going to crack or break and shatter into their eye. Polycarbonate also protects your eyes from ultraviolet light, and it's lighter in weight and thickness than regular plastic. So it's a nice lens and generally not too expensive to upgrade to from a regular plastic lens.
Now, the second lenses that my favorite one is actually something that really can help, especially when people are experiencing weakness because of the light reflection, and also it will protect them, is the anti-glare, or the short for AR.
What's going on? It's your boy Baguio checking in here at Pinoy Lakas Radio Streaming. Check out one of our sponsors, Warzone Boxing Club. Find out what we're about. We're about home of the champion breed, representing. We're there to train professionals, amateurs, people that just want to get in shape. They also provide free services as far as open gym membership to veterans, fire department, police department, and active duty. So check them out. Check them out, warzoneboxingclub.com. So hope to see you there.
Okay, guys. Doc will be back, but I'm here to actually talk more about the lenses that I've learned from Dr. Gilkison. Working with him for so many years. My favorite subject, like I said, is polycarbonate, that everybody needs to have, especially when you have a kids. The kid doesn't know what is polycarbonate. So when you are bringing your kids to the eye doctor, make sure that you let the doctor or the optician knows that you have knowledge about what type of lenses your kid should have. Polycarbonate is actually the materials that everybody should have, especially on kids, because kids is actually tend to be wrapped on their glasses. When they're playing, they may fall, fell, or punch their faces. When you have a polycarbonate lenses, they actually will not gonna shatter in your kids' eyes or our eyes, okay? It will just crack it. It will just crack it, not shatter. That's two different things. So you actually protect your eyes for damaging your eyes when your lenses broke, okay? And having some plastic is not too much of a difference, because plastic pricing and also polycarbonate is not just too far on the pricing. So you need to at least get your polycarbonate, and you save your life, you save your eyes, save your kids' eyes, everyone's eyes. Because if you're gonna just go on plastic, it's like you're just getting a toy. Meaning, when I said a toy, you can just go to the 99-cent store or just pick up over the counter. There are plastic, and plastic actually damage your eyes because there's no protection in it. There's no UV. While on polycarbonate, there is a protection on your polycarbonate, and it will last longer, and it's also a built-in protection for scratch coating. Now, the next subject that the doctor we're gonna tell you is about the anti-glare. I also have a little bit knowledge of anti-glare. Hearing doctor about explaining to the patient, I really like to have anti-glare. Uh, maybe you guys are wondering where is the doctor right now, because he had a special request with one of our patient, and they want to talk to him about question about the glasses that they have. Just like I said, the patient that used or getting prescribed with the lenses, even though at the end of the eye exam, the doctor will tell them what kind of prescription they have, either single vision for reading or just for distance, or probably they need multifocal, which is known as progressive. When they come back, they will ask again the doctor, what do I have in my glasses? What is the upgrade I have in my glasses? So they forget what the doctor told them about it. So most of the patient, even though their frame is fitted exactly in their face, like when I have this new glasses that I have that the doctor prescribed, and I wear it, and if I put down my glasses, even I wiggle it and shake it, it doesn't fell on my face, because the doctor, after receiving these glasses, before dispensing or before giving it to the patient, he want to make sure that it will fit it in your face, so you don't have to keep up coming back again. And if you have multifocal, you're gonna have a problem if the doctor doesn't fit that frame in your face when you pick it up, because they should be fitting without putting it down or sliding it down. So the doctor were going to test the side of your ears, if your temple, they call this temple, that it not sliding down, okay? And the nose pad that we have, common to our Asian people, actually, if you have a small nose like me, it's recommended actually to have a nose pad. So that way it will be adjusted to your nose, that it will fit it right. Because the one without any nose pad, we have a problem with that, because we have a small nose or a little bit flatter. So usually when you sweat, it's actually sliding down like this, slowly sliding down this way. So the doctor's responsibility is to make sure that your prescription is fitted, your frame is fitted before sending it to the lab. We also have one person who is actually knowledgeable about doing that, is they call it optician. But optician actually doesn't really know exactly some of the question, that is like sometimes it's very complex, that they will ask the optician, and the only who could answer is a professional doctor. So right now we have a patient that wants to speak with Dr. Gilkison about some question, and as a doctor, professional doctor, he needs to take time to answer those questions. Luckily, because I've been working for 20 plus years with Dr. Gilkison, I've learned so much stuff. Especially, I have also my daughter Melanie, which is working with the doctor for longest time. And Melanie is one, even though she's not licensed as an optician, she learned more than being optician. So she teach me how to do some troubleshooting about that. And at first I was so scared about it because I might break their glasses. So I'm very careful about it. Taking care of the lenses because it's very expensive. I just don't recommend that when you are checking the prescription on lensometer, the optician or the student that usually come here to help us, they should put it on the towel or protective cloth like this. This is actually a nice cloth. This is not a regular cloth. This is actually a material that when you clean your glasses, it not gonna scratch your lenses. So by rubbing your lenses, usually with anti-glare, you should spray it inside and outside. You spray it outside and inside, one spray each. And I recommend that when you're cleaning it, you just don't go back and forth when you're cleaning it, because when you have an anti-glare, it's very sensitive. It will help you a lot to see better. But if you scratch it, it costs a lot of money to put anti-glare. And that's a kind of like a cosmetic, but it will help you with a lot of problem later on. So when you have an anti-glare, we recommend that you have to spray it. We have some kind of like cleaner that you can use, not alcohol, okay? When you have anti-glare, you don't want to put an alcohol on your lenses when you have anti-glare. It's better to use water or a regular lens cleaner, and you just clean it one at a time and do it this way, okay? One way. Never use your t-shirt or any kind of material that is wrapped in your lenses. So Doc, you can continue about the anti-glare. I explained it to them a little bit of anti-glare because that's one of my favorite kind of material to put on anybody's lenses. It will help you a lot to protect your eyes from if you use computer, and also when you're driving at night when your eyes is tired. Take it back, Doc.
Well, if you understand what lenses are what we call refracting surfaces, but essentially when you shine a light through them, not all the light gets through, especially if it's coming at an angle to the light. Some of that, whatever comes at an angle, will reflect off the lens, and then you have a reflection on the surface. And so you don't want that when you're working around bright lights, fluorescent lighting in offices, or you're driving at night and the headlight's shining in your face and you're getting a reflection of the light on your lens. It's going to be a distraction. And so a percentage of light generally doesn't get through the lens, maybe 10 to 15%. And what the anti-glare does is allows all of the good light to get through and blocks out those shiny reflections. So you get an enhancement of 10% on your vision right off the bat, essentially, because you're getting just good light through the lens and maximizing the light. So somebody who needs good light, people who have cataracts as we age, and the lens inside of your eye gets clouded, it starts to block the light to your retina. And if you're getting reflections on your glasses, you're getting even less light. So it's a method of enhancing vision. And most of us have seen that. We just maybe didn't really recognize or notice it. If you've ever used any kind of device like binoculars or cameras, they put them on the lenses there. So when you put it up to your face, you're not going to see a reflection coming from behind you, and you can't see the image into the lens. If you watch old TV shows or movies, sometimes you saw a lot of actors there that had lenses that had a lot of reflections on them. And over time now, when you watch them, it looks like there's not even a lens in the frame. And that's kind of the effect to you when you're wearing them, is you don't feel like you have lenses in there, but you get the effect of the prescription. So it is a very nice feature to have to a lens. It does require a little bit of upkeep, but once you understand what to do properly, you're going to get enjoyment out of your glasses. You're going to be happy that you put them on there, because cosmetically it makes your glasses much more appealing. People see your eyes and the features of the frame. They don't see all the reflections of the images from the background.
Show them your lenses, Doc, because you have a
So I have a
anti-glare.
fully rimless frame, so there's no rim around any of the lens. And I wouldn't sell this kind of lens to a patient without anti-glare. With this is you're trying to achieve kind of a natural look, like there's not glasses on at all. And if you're getting reflections on it, you lose the whole effect of having the rimless frame. So it's a nice thing cosmetically to have on your glasses as well.
And the next lenses I want to introduce to you is, they call it transition. Working with Dr. Gilkison for so many years, I heard this term transition, and believe it or not, a lot of patients is so confused when they talk about transition, because it sounds good, right? Transition. And patient will always say, can I have a transition on my lenses? But 70% of our patient doesn't really know what they are talking about when they say transition, because they think transition is also an AR, anti-glare in short, is AR. But actually, transition is not anti-glare, but it's something that you can do 2-in-1. But not only that, but there's also some complex on that one, because people expect that just because they have transition, that they can also have a sunglasses when you're inside your vehicle, your car, or your pickup truck, or where you're inside the vehicles, like I said. So Dr. Gilkison will give you more details about what is the use of transition and what is the recommendation why you have a transition. Okay, Doc?
Well, transitions is just a branded name for a photochromatic lens. So the history of photochromatic lenses goes back to the age of glass, which we still have glass lenses, but they're seldomly used in today's world. And the term we used back then was called photo gray extra or photo gray. And glass is a little bit different chemistry than plastic. So glass actually had what we call silver halide crystals that were like what you use for film, and they were placed in the matrix of the glass material itself. And so they were a very long-lasting effect, but they weren't really effective on getting tremendously dark, and they're very slow changing. And then as we got more and more into plastic materials, the first company that really perfected it was called Transitions. And so it's kind of like, the term we use for, nobody says, may I have a tissue, may I have a Kleenex? They really marketed that product well. Now we don't call tissues Kleenex. Well, Transitions is just the brand name for a photochromatic lens. So there's several brands out there, but Transitions is still considered one of the best, and they're constantly evolving the product. So now we have different colors that they can change to. They do a much better job of getting changed more rapidly. They historically were kind of slow on going from dark to clear. And they're still slower going dark to clear than they are from clear to dark. But the product now, most people are very pleased with the investment when they put that in their lenses now. Always have to qualify that they don't darken inside of a car like a sunglass would. Sunglasses are permanently dark. The lens inside the car requires ultraviolet light, and your windshield and windows block out ultraviolet light. So they've worked on making them a little bit affected by the brightness of the sun, and so now we have lenses that do change a little bit in the car. But they're not what I would qualify as sunglasses for the fact that they're not as dark inside of the car. But as soon as you step out, they work quite nicely on usually a bright day. They will work a little bit in a cloudy day as well, but certainly on a brighter day they work their best.
Well, my favorite subject is actually the sunglasses, when you're doing sunglasses. Tint versus
Polarized.
polarized. That's the one a lot of people should have, because if you're spending a lot of money on your frame, like sunglasses, you have Versace, Chanel, Bulgari, those are very expensive frame for sunglasses, and you just actually put plastic, not even polycarbonate, just plastic and tint, you're just wasting your money for those kind of lenses. So we are recommending the polarized, and Doc will explain it to you why is polarized very important.
Well, most light we see in the world is multi-directional, meaning it comes from all different directions. It radiates 360 degrees in three-dimensional. But what term polarized means is light coming from only one direction. And the importance of that is your blinding glare comes off of horizontal surfaces like cement and car hoods and also your dashboard. And so what polarized sunglasses do is they insert a filter into the tint. So you have a dark lens, essentially, but they have a filter in the lens itself that blocks light from the horizontal surfaces only. And so the importance of that is it gives you even a little more level of glare protection than what you get out of just dark tint. Dark tint will knock down the brightness, but you're still going to have the glare. So when you take and polarize it, then essentially you dampen down the brightness, but you also reduce the effect of the glare. So it gives you a much more effective lens against glare coming off of your, the classic is the one that you get off of your dashboard reflecting on your windshield, that you see the image there, especially if you leave a piece of paper or something on the dashboard, you see that in the windshield that's blocking your view. And a polarized lens will eliminate that. And people who are outdoorsmen, outdoor ladies, you're going to like the lens a lot more on the water, especially if you think about when you're out fishing on a lake. You see the reflection of trees and the mountains off of the water. Essentially, it takes away from what you're able to see at the surface or just below the surface of the water. And a polarized will wipe all that out, and so you can actually see a fish swimming below the surface if it's shallow waters.
I have experience with polarized, and there's so many useful things that polarized can do with your sunglasses. But my favorite one is not really a polarized, and it's not really on the market anymore. And Doc, I don't really heard him really market this, but my favorite one, because I have my own experience going to Illinois one time with my family. We were in the middle of like 2-3 o'clock in the morning, and it's pitch black. My son Bagyo is actually driving our pickup truck, and all I see is, oh man, it's like dark, and then on the land it's all snow, and so scary. I was terrified with it, and Doc is half asleep while my son Bagyo is driving how many miles maybe that day? 80 miles?
Oh, no, he drove 10 or 12 hours straight, so that was probably close to 1,000 miles.
So my fear actually is not really that intense, because when I remember that makes me feel good is when do you remember what kind of lens? Let's see if Doc remember that story about telling you what I discovered about the lens I'm using in the middle of 2-3 o'clock in the morning when it's pitch black and then suddenly, oh man.
Uh-oh, I'm in trouble.
I know Doc, when we go out, he's so excited, but he'll never remember a lot of things after that. Well, when we were driving in Illinois, like I said, like 2-3 o'clock in the morning, it's my own experience. And I was terrified about the surrounding. And I don't know, because I was blind with the snow actually. So I pick up my sunglasses, and guess what? I have a drive wear.
Oh, wow.
My lenses is drive wear. My sunglasses lens is not polarized, but I love polarized. That's one of my favorite. But I really believe that I was really in love with my drive wear. Because when I use my sunglasses and drive like 2-3 o'clock in the morning, pitch black, I see like it's morning time, like 6 o'clock in the morning, and I didn't know what time it is, but it's so clear, like morning clear. I don't know what is in that lens that makes you really see very clearly.
Well, that was a combination of both what we just discussed, a photochromatic lens and a polarized. And the nature of the lens responded to the type of lighting outside, so it was very effective on working in a kind of a June gloom type of day for you Southern Californian people that know what that means. When you get these days where it just looks like pea soup in the air and you can't see too clearly for very far. It was a kind of a greenish, amber kind of shade, and would have actually be influenced by the lighting. So it would give you a kind of a cutting through the fog type effect.
Doc, since we cover about the different kind of lenses, now we're gonna cover the different type of prescription when people you recommend them like people so confused about this. They say, oh, I want to see far and I want to see clear. And when we explain them to them, like, oh, you need progressive. No, I don't need that. I just want to see far. I want to see my computer. I want to see when I read. And I say, oh, really? That's what is progressive is all about. So, Doc, take it away, starting on single vision. There's two types of single vision, right?
Well, single vision just means, if you sound it out, single vision. So it only allows you a focus of far or close or wherever we decide we want you to see. So we could customize the lens to let you see at arm's length. As we get older, that's important. As when you're young, one single vision lens allows you to see everything because our eyes are very adaptive at that age and we can focus. As we get over 40 and can't focus so well, then the lens starts providing the focus for you, and so we have to decide where do you want to see with the lens if it's only single vision. When you start talking about multifocals, then the option traditionally was a bifocal or a trifocal, and with those you actually saw visible lines on the lens, and you would see far and close. Or with a trifocal, you would have far, middle, would be intermediate, and close. Those were very challenging. Trifocals were very challenging lenses to wear because you had the awareness of two sets of lines, and it was a very fit dependent. If the optician didn't fit you well in positioning the lines, you weren't really going to use them the way they were supposed to be used. As time has evolved and we've gotten into computer generated lenses, we can make a lens for any need you really want. Essentially, if you want to see all three levels of vision or multiple levels of vision, we call those progressives. And progressives mean you get a lens that gradually increases in power from the top down to the very bottom of the lens, and you can see all levels of vision, and that's what I have on that I'm wearing right now. Once you adapt to them, I wouldn't say it's like childhood vision, but I do see all the areas I want to be able to see. You do have to kind of line your face up with them. They do have some limitation to the width of the vision. The modern computers, if you look at the widescreen TV here, where everything's set up 16 by 9, so you have some computers now that are 24 inches wide, and the lens probably doesn't have that much width to the middle part of the lens. It's kind of narrow there, so you have to learn to make head movements with these. And there are people that are generally more eye movers than head movers, and they may not be able to adapt to wearing a progressive on a widescreen monitor. And so we have to make them a more specialty type of lens that allows them to do, if they're 8 hours of computer every day, allows them to see what they're really looking at the most. And then we can evolve, if they want to be able to see far or close in the lens, it gets a little trickier, but there are lenses that do allow you to see middle range or close, or far and middle range. So, it's up to the doctor to kind of pick your brain and listen to your needs and come up with a lens that's easy for you to use and effective. There are places out there that don't prescribe those. So the one advantage of a private office like this one is I can prescribe what I choose. And I've tried a lot of the modern lens designs and know which ones work better than others and which ones people are happier with than others. I have worked in other environments that you don't have those options. So you're left with either wearing a progressive on a widescreen computer, a single vision probably is the other choice, and those aren't always the best choices.
Well, I don't know about you guys. I've been working with Dr. Gilkison for so many years, but I'm still excited every day that I work with him because we met a lot of different kind of patient that they have different problem, and hearing their problem and getting solved with Dr. Gilkison, it makes me feel so good that we can help. And for you guys, since you've been listening already to Dr. Gilkison and later on you want to ask questions, we have a part 2. And more than that, we are planning to have a live screen calling next time on our live streaming and our podcast that you guys can actually hear Dr. Gilkison again to answer your questions. So prepare your question. The next time Dr. Gilkison is going to be doing podcast and live streaming, you can message me in Messenger or comment. We're gonna having a laptop that we can see your questionnaire, since we already cover most of our eye disease, different kind of type of lenses. I hope it helps you, and also different kind of prescription. Now we can have part that we want to have fun right now with Dr. Gilkison. As you know, Dr. Gilkison is not ordinary eye doctor. I call him my singing doctor because Dr. G has been a singer ever since he was 5 years old. He sang in the church at the age of 5, growing up, high school, college, and up to now, he's been helping our community, our church, by helping entertain our people, especially on fundraising. We don't have any preparation for our music, but I'm gonna put him on the spot. I'm gonna request him to sing even a cappella. Doc, we want to talk about your love of basketball before you sing, because I know that you and me were in the same car, when we heard what happened to Kobe Bryant, and you see me cry. I cried. I was crying because we lost one of our iconic NBA player. We love you, Kobe. It's an honor to have you in our America as our hero. And Dr. Gilkison, he's been an avid fan especially with Magic Johnson. We can believe that we lost you. And can you sing for the fans of Kobe Bryant, Doc? The
Ooh.
family.
I don't know if I have a song
Acapella.
that's appropriate for that.
No, something like sad memories, like about a gospel song.
Ooh.
Amazing Grace. Amazing Grace might be, right? God bless America.
Okay. Let's see if I can come up with something in my head here. I think Amazing Grace is probably the most appropriate, right?
Yes. This is for Kobe Bryant's family.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now I am found. Was blind, but now I see.
Thank you, Doc. It's a short song, but it gives me a goosebump because I can feel the power of it. And that's not the only reason why we're doing this. We want to say, I'm sorry, and our heart is also with all the victims of the volcano in the Philippines. And we're trying our best to do the best we can. Dr. Gilkison is actually continues saving some money and also buying relief and sending some money to help the Filipino people in the Philippines. And your Pinoy Lakas, with my son, Bagyo, and also Mervin. We are trying our best to help out the people out there. In saying that also, I want to thank, remember, Jackie De Hoya and Rex. Thank you, Jackie. Nararamdaman ko na ang tao pag gustong tumulong, hindi kailangang magbigay ng amount kung ano ang dapat i-donate. Everything that's coming from your heart is well appreciated. Dahil sa maliliit na bagay, nakakatulong tayo ng malaki sa mga ating kababayan na nangangailangan ng ating pagkalinga. Pinagpapatuloy namin ipagdasal ang mga naulila natin sa Pilipinas na naging sanhi ng pagputok ng Taal Volcano at sa mga naiwanan na naghihirap dyan. Marami po tayong darating na relief na on the way na po yan, at kung sakasakali po ay meron naman akong emergency na maaari din ako makauwi. It depende po sa aking health right now because my health is actually fluctuating. It's like a roller coaster. Unfortunately, miski gusto ni Bagyo na at nila Mervin sumama, hindi po sila pwedeng pumunta. Masama po kay Bagyo ang pumunta ron dahil sa mga ashes. At si Dr. G po naman ay gusto din sumama, but for sure makakauwi po tayo dyan. Okay, maraming po salamat. Shout out po kasi nag-message sa akin ang isa sa ating community leader sa Pilipinas, si Edgar Parado o si Tweety Bird. Edgar, I love you, Edgar, for doing this for our kababayan sa mga biktima ng ating Taal Volcano at sa ating DJ Marshmallow. Thank you for including me in your drive sa fundraising ninyo. Nagpapasalamat kami ng Bagyo, ni Dr. Gilkison, Pinoy Lakas Radio Streaming, JP Highland Eye Care, sa inyong pagkilala at pagsaludo sa nagawa namin maliit na bagay dyan. At ipagpapatuloy po namin yan, alang-alang po sa ating mga kababayan. Mahal na mahal namin po kayong lahat, sa ating mga presidente ng ating Pinoy Lakas, Bagyo Pinoy Lakas International Fan Page, 3 po yan, at ang JP Highland Eye Care website, sila Irene, Melinda Campo, Monet, at meron din po na isa pang bagong grupo na sumusuporta dyan sa Saudi Arabia. Meron po tayong tinatawag na Friends Way Love of Music, kila Shebundi at Rex. Marami po sila dyan. Maraming salamat din po kay Johnny Graba, kay Consul General Adelio Cruz, ang ating Consul General na assign dito sa ating bansang Amerika, na nagsiserve po sa atin sa LA, sa San Diego, Las Vegas, baka meron pa yatang iba. Pero Consul General Adelio Cruz, maraming salamat po, at sa iyong buong pamilya. Ina-appreciate po namin kayong lahat. Sila Larry Pelayo, Johnny, Tita Myla, sila Lilia Grabe. Maraming salamat sa inyong lahat. At kay Sebastian, sa mga anak ko, at sa inyong lahat na tumatangkilik ng ating Pinoy Lakas Radio Streaming. Magandang gabi po sa inyong lahat. Magandang umaga, dahil iba-iba po ang ating oras. Nasa buong mundo po tayo, sa sister ko si Gigi, kay Pastor Luz ng International Mission. Magkikita po kami ngayong Sunday. Magpapapiding program po tayo ngayong Sunday. This is tribute and dedicated to Bagyo's birthday coming up. Malapit nang mag-birthday si Bagyo. Okay, signing out, your Pinoy Lakas Ludi Gilkison with Dr. Richard Gilkison of JP Highland Eye Care. Pinoy Lakas Radio Streaming. God bless us all. I love you all.
Hi, everybody. Hope you enjoyed today's show. I enjoyed talking to you about some current topics in your eyes in the year of Vision 2020. I thank Pinoy Lakas Radio, Ludi Gilkison, for having me on the show. It was a pleasure to talk about what I do day in and day out in my career. If you'd like to have your eyes tested, please give us a call. We'd be happy to help you out. I hope you're inspired to do so this year. Don't wait till you have symptoms. Get your eyes tested without any help from your friends to prod you to come in. Hope to see you soon. Bye-bye.